The Israeli defense minister publicly stated today that Israel will eliminate Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, saying, quote, "This man should no longer exist." This statement came after Iran's strike on a hospital in Israel on June 19th. As a result of the Iranian missile strike, Soroka Hospital, the third largest in Israel in the city of Beersheba, was affected. Israeli authorities say that 71 people were injured there. After visiting the hospital, Israel's defense minister stated that his country considers Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a legitimate target. However, Iran claims that the target was a military facility located next to the hospital, not the hospital itself. Let's look into this situation together and review the latest news in the war between Israel and Iran. My name is Alexei Pechi. We'll go through everything step by step, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment under this episode, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. So today, on June 19th, Iran attacked Israel. One of the strikes hit the surgical department building of Soroka Hospital in the city of Beersheba, from which people had been evacuated. Eyewitnesses report smoke rising above the hospital after the strike. Reporters in the area reported extensive destruction, and smoke did indeed linger in the air for a long time. According to the hospital administration, one of the buildings caught fire, several departments were completely destroyed, and the entire hospital suffered serious damage. Buildings, structures, windows and ceilings throughout the medical center were damaged, hospital director Shlomi Kodesh told reporters. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, after visiting the hospital, stated that Iran's supreme leader should no longer exist. Next, I will quote Israel Katz. "If the state of Israel had existed during the Holocaust and we knew that we could send the Israel Defense Forces into the bunkers to capture Hitler and prevent him from destroying the Jews, we would have done it. Khamenei is the modern Hitler." When asked whether eliminating Khamenei is among Israel's war goals, Katz answered, quote, "The goals of the war are to eliminate the nuclear threat, destroy the sources of destruction, and neutralize the missile threats." Within this framework, the Israel Defense Forces has received instructions and knows that, in order to achieve all the goals, undoubtedly this man must no longer exist. And here it is worth recalling that earlier Western media reported that United States President Donald Trump vetoed Israel's plans to assassinate Khamenei. Israel reportedly planned to eliminate Khamenei, but Trump dissuaded them from executing the plan. In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu simply stated, quote, "There are too many false reports about conversations that never happened, so I will not comment on this." But today, Netanyahu promised that Iran will still pay a high price for the strike on the hospital. Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell said that Iran's strike on the Soroka hospital was deliberate and criminal, and that the hospital is the main medical center for the entire Negev, the southern region of Israel. Iran's mission to the United Nations stated that it categorically denies Israel's claim about the strike on the Soroka hospital. The Iranians insist that Iranian strikes are highly accurate and are aimed at targets that are directly involved in or assist Israel's attacks on Iran. Well, here an analogy comes to mind with the Russian dictator Putin, who commented on the terrible strike on Kyiv on June 17th, which unfortunately resulted in many deaths, where the missile hit a residential building. Putin also cynically claimed that they were targeting weapons production in Kyiv, and the building was just nearby, probably got hit a little by the blast wave, that's all. Well, that's a pretty cynical answer. The Iranians say the same thing. And before that, Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi said, quote, "The blast wave from Iranian strikes on Israeli military targets caused superficial damage to the hospital." Superficial. And here I'll give you a quote from Trevor Lawrence, an explosives expert from Britain's Cranfield University. Quote, "The video of the hospital building after the strike shows extensive damage from above, but relatively little from the sides, which indicates a direct hit rather than the effect of a nearby explosion or blast wave. This is a direct missile hit to the hospital roof." End of quote. Overall, on the 7th day of the conflict, Iran and Israel continue to exchange strikes. The Israeli Ministry of Health reported on Tuesday that there were 24 dead and 592 wounded. Iranian authorities also last published data on casualties in their country on Tuesday, and they reported that in Iran there were 224 dead and 1,200 wounded. In addition to the attack on the hospital on Thursday morning, an Iranian ballistic missile struck the business district in the city of Ramat Gan, east of Tel Aviv. As a result, on one of the skyscrapers, a glass panel fell from several floors and part of an electric pole collapsed to the ground. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces reported that they struck Iran's nuclear facilities, including an inactive, unfinished heavy water reactor in Iraq and a nuclear facility in Natanz. To be continued. Before the strikes, the Israeli army has called on residents of the Iranian cities of Arak and Kandab, located near the reactor, to immediately leave the area. The thing is, heavy water reactors produce plutonium, which, like enriched uranium, can be used to create nuclear weapons. Iranian media reported that 2 shells landed near this facility. No radiation contamination threats have been detected, but later the International Atomic Energy Agency did confirm damage to these facilities. In Natanz, Israel believes there are unique components and equipment used for developing nuclear weapons. The nuclear facility in Natanz was also hit by Israeli strikes on the very first day of the conflict and suffered significant damage. And what about the United States? According to recent reports, United States President Donald Trump has been contemplating direct United States involvement in Israel's military campaign against Iran for the past few days. However, so far he hasn't given any clear signals about his next steps. And now, according to reports, Trump has already approved plans for a strike on Iran, but is still postponing the final decision. And on Thursday evening, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt made the following statement on behalf of Donald Trump. Quote, "Based on the fact that there is significant room for negotiations with Iran, which may or may not take place in the near future, I will make my decision on whether or not to participate in the war within the next 2 weeks." At the same time, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi warned the United States that if Washington intervenes, Tehran will have no choice but to use its means to teach the aggressors a lesson. Iran has promised that in the event of United States intervention, it will strike American bases in the region. And today, Iranian propaganda media have already started spreading a map of the Middle East showing 10 American bases throughout the region that Iranian missiles can reach, hinting that these are the first targets they will strike. Overall, I'll leave it at that for now. These are all the main news updates at the moment regarding the war between Israel and Iran. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like if you want to support the work of this channel.